All right, welcome back, folks. This is Bleach Report Live. I am Jake Ellenbogen, and today we're going to be talking about what the heck the Rams are going to do at pick 19. Before we get into it, just want to point you in the direction. If you like any of this content at any point, you can follow me on the Bleach Report app, JK Bogan, as well as all social media at JK Bogan. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and then, of course, my YouTube channel. You can just look up Jake Ellenbogen or at JK Bogan 15, and you can find the YouTube channel as well. I cover the Rams. I also cover the NFL. You can find an NFL show tomorrow I'm doing with Cameron Lynch on the Bleach Report app. We'll be talking about the Super Bowl and predicting who wins. So let's dive into this thing because, look, the Rams have not had a first-round pick selection, because keep in mind, they did have a first-round pick before, but they have traded those away. They traded away for Stafford. They traded away for Ramsey. They traded, a pick away for Cooks. And then, of course, they traded down in 2019 where they drafted Taylor Rapp in the second round. So the question remains, are they going to actually pick this time around? What are they going to do? So I'm going to take you through all the different scenarios that I see, and just kind of give you an idea of the directions they might go. First off, we'll start off with trades. Now, I don't know a bunch of players that necessarily make sense to trade this pick away. And from what I've heard, it sounds like the Rams did value this pick for a while. They held off on making trades at the deadline. I kind of have the feeling that they're going to pick here or, trade up or trade down, but I feel like they want to stay in the first round and get another first round pick. They have not selected a first rounder since Jared Goff in 2016. And if you're not considering a trade down, or a trade up, then the last time they picked at their position was 2015 with Todd Gurley at number 10. So looking at who the Rams could trade away, we're going to start off with who they could trade away. Then we'll talk about trading up and all of that. But who could they trade this pick away for? I think the first name that pops into my mind is Josh Allen, the edge defender for the Jaguars. I think a lot of these guys that, I made this short list, a lot of these guys are going to be sign and trade. The only scenario I see there. Josh Allen is not somebody you're going to let go so you could get a third round compensatory pick. The Jaguars need to get something for him if he's not going to commit long term to them. So if that's not the case, then they really need to get something for him and, tag him and trade him. And I do think that is a possibility. The Rams have made two trades with the Jaguars in the past, obviously Jalen Ramsey, but also Dante Fowler Jr. So they even traded for an edge defender who was also a high first round draft pick, as well as Josh Allen. So where are we on this Josh Allen thing? Well, Josh Allen is one of the best edge defenders in the league. I say edge defenders because he can kind of do it all. He can cover. He's great against the run. He's really good as a pass rusher, just continues to get better and better. And he's still young. So to me, why do you make this move? You make this move because you're thinking long-term. You're thinking what comes after Aaron Donald, but also in the meantime, we were 10-6, 10-7 last year. If I'm the Rams organization, that's how I look at it. We were 10-7 last year in a year where we declared essentially ahead of time that it was a remodel. It wasn't going to be like a normal year, spending $75 million to pay guys that weren't on the roster to shore up, cap space down the road and get them out of that salary cap, issue there. So if that's the case, you want to add a guy like Josh Allen to the fray who can help you win now, but can help you win down the road. Then I think it makes a lot of sense. What would the Jaguars do? I think it would probably take a first and a third, maybe two firsts. But I think it's possible if the Jaguars can't come to an agreement. Another one I'd mention is Brian Burns, who the Rams already tried to acquire last year, and Carolina shut down, I think it was 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick. So look, Brian Burns, in my opinion, his value has gone way down compared to Josh Allen. Josh Allen's coming off a bang-up season. Brian Burns is coming off a year where he had, I believe, one more pressure than I almost said Matt Longacre, Michael Hoyt. So that says something there, and to me, when you look at Brian Burns, he just oozes potential. And, obviously the athleticism as a speed rusher and all of that. but he hasn't been dominant. Like, we haven't seen him take over as one of the best pass rushers in the league. And I feel like he's capable of that. If he was playing next to Aaron Donald, he could definitely do that. So that's a name to look out for. Pick 19 for Brian Burns, I think, would be a fair trade if it was a tag and trade. But, that remains to be seen. Another guy who was at the Pro Bowl talked about it. His heart is in Chicago, but, he has business on his mind when it comes to money. Jalen Johnson, who you could argue was the best cornerback in the National Football League this past year. Johnson is an absolute stud. Quarterbacks, when targeting him, had a 33 passer rating. That's insane. So Jalen Johnson, after the season the Rams had, finding Ahkello Witherspoon, in the third wave of, I believe, free agency at that point, and then, rocking and rolling with the fourth, the sixth, and a UDFA, I wouldn't be surprised if they did a move like that. Do the Bears let Jalen Johnson go? No, I don't think they do. I think they would tag him and trade him, if anything. And they very well could do that. They could also keep him. I wouldn't be against that either. But that's a name to look out for because I think the Rams would be involved if he was available. Next up, T. Higgins. What are the Bengals going to do there? I don't see them letting him go. I don't think he tests free agency. I don't think they let him get there. I think they tag him, and I think there's a good chance that they trade him. So do the Rams come in and be like, hey, we like the idea of putting T. Higgins with Cooper Kupp at the end of his career, but also having him, develop with Puka Nacua. Or, not develop because he's already, fully developed receiver, but he's a star receiver and have him with Puka Nacua. I mean, he's 25 years old. Imagine him, Puka Nacua, and then you bring back Tutu Atwell, and you have Cooper Kupp. I mean, that's a really, really, that's one of the best receiver groups I think you could come up with. So T. Higgins is another one, tag and trade. And then Jair Alexander, who is under contract. I could see the Packers trade him away. I know that, Goody, Brian Gutenkirst, or however you say his name, their GM. I know he said that they're not going to trade Jair Alexander. I also heard Les Snead say that he wasn't going to delete Sam Bradford, and he did just that when he traded him to Nick Foles a week after. He said that at the Combine. So, look, I don't really buy into all that. If there's a deal there, they'll trade Jair Alexander. I mean, he got suspended a game. There was some back and forth. I don't think he loved the coaching staff that much. Jair Alexander is one of the best corners in football. His issue has been those soft tissue injuries that tend to linger. But if the Rams wanted to go back to that model of, win now and, trade for these guys, Jair Alexander would fit the bill. He's 3 years younger than Jalen Ramsey, so that would be justifiable in that sense. So then those are the players that they could trade the picks for. But looking at the Rams, what if they traded up? So we'll look at here. See, they're 19th. We're on PFF's mock draft simulator here, and we're just going to enter this draft. And we haven't started it yet. But what if the Rams traded up? So let's start. And I mean, it already does it all. But let's just look at all this, right? So these players, you have Joe Alt going third. I don't know if that'll happen. Sounds like Drake May might fall. Some of the rumors I was seeing. Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr., Rome Odunze, Brock Bowers, Jaden Daniels. See, this is intriguing to me. So let's start off with the weapons. The guys that look at offensive weapons to help the Rams out. So if the Rams were looking for an offensive weapon, they decide not to trade the first round pick for T. Higgins. And, keep in mind, you have to pay T. Higgins, right? So it's not just, hey, we get T. Higgins for free with a first rounder. No, you're going to have to sign him to a long-term deal. So that's a lot of money. So if you want the rookie deal, maybe you trade up with that first rounder, you use a third or something like that, and you go up and you get a guy like Brock Bowers, and that's 19 to 7. I mean, that's a hike. But you go out and you get your weapon. And who's to say he goes here? I mean, he could go later. He could go earlier. Same thing with any of these guys. So I guess the point I'm making here is if you trade up for a weapon, you got Malik Neighbors, you got Marvin Harrison Jr., you got Rome Odunze, you got Brock Bowers. There's a run here on them. However, I don't know if this is entirely accurate. Do we really think the Patriots are going to pass on a quarterback here? And are we sure that Chicago is going to take Caleb Williams and not stick with Justin Fields? Like, we don't know. I'm pretty sure that Washington's picking a quarterback in some capacity. Arizona's not picking a quarterback, neither of the Chargers. Giants, I don't know. The Titans, I don't know. Maybe not, but they have a new head coach. The Falcons feel like they would pick a quarterback. The Bears in the second time around, maybe. The Jets, I mean, it would be a little weird because, it seems like they want to go all in on Aaron Rodgers, but Zach Wilson doesn't appear to be somebody that they want to hold around. So maybe you have to start over there. The Vikings, they could be a team to decide to go out and get a quarterback. The Broncos, definitely. Then you have, the Raiders, 100%. So a lot of teams could take quarterbacks here. So that leads me to believe that some of these guys will fall. And for the Rams, looking at those weapons, I mean, I think the one that makes the most sense, if I'm being honest with you, is Brock Bowers. If they're going to trade up for a weapon, you go out and you get Brock Bowers. You have him at tight end. Tyler Higbee is going to start the year on the physically unable to perform list. I almost said that correctly and I butchered it. But anyway, the PUP list for short. They have Davis Allen, who I'm very high on, very excited about. Bryson Hopkins is a free agent. Would love to bring him back. I don't think they do. They don't really utilize him correctly. So I hope he goes and kills it wherever he goes. Hunter Long, he's coming off an injury. So the Rams have a chance this year. If they want to, they can trade up. They can get Brock Bowers. I think he'll be around like the 8 to 12 range. And because of that, I think when you think about it, Brock Bowers, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell, and then insert fourth receiver, whether they bring back a Demarcus Robinson, sign Odell, who knows? But now you have Brock Bowers on 5-year deal, essentially. 4-year rookie deal, and then you get a 5th-year option. So imagine what Sean McVay could do with like a George Kittle-like talent. I mean, he could have just listened to me in 2017 and drafted George Kittle like I wanted him to, but the point I'm making here is I think that is enticing. I don't know. He could go like 4th overall. Like Bowers could absolutely go higher, but I do think the quarterbacks here could push him down the board. I do think some of these wide receivers could push him down the board. And I do think the fact that he's a tight end makes him kind of this. We've seen like Kyle Pitts went 4th overall. We could see him fall in between 6 to 12 even, especially with this tackle draft. So when you think about all those things concerned, Rams trade up, they get Brock Bowers, say around here. I mean, now all of a sudden your offense that was 8th in the league this year, and you lost Kyron Williams for 4 games. You went on a 1-3 skid, and then you won 7 of your last 8. To me, I feel like Brock Bowers with Cooper Kupp, with Puka Nacua, with Tutu Atwell, with Kyron Williams, that's a lot of weapons for Matthew Stafford. And one thing we noticed in these playoffs, there are still good defenses. The 49ers are a good defense. The Chiefs are a good defense. But the best defense got eliminated. That was the Ravens. The key is offense in this league. It really is. There's a reason why since going back to 2015, every single, besides 2015, so 2016 and beyond, every single offensive top 10 team, every single Super Bowl winning team has been in the top 10 offensively. So this is a scoring league where scoring is down. I mean, all these defenses are doing all this stuff to try and slow down offenses. And we've seen the average scoring go down, the average yards per game go down. Defense is starting to slow down offenses, right? Gone are the days where we're seeing 55 touchdown Peyton Manning season. However, Sean McVay, offensive minded, doesn't mean he doesn't care about the defense, but he could see right through this and be like, hey, we need to go out and we need to do something we've never done before. We started, moving to gap scheme. We started using Kyron Williams in a way that we haven't used a running back since Todd Gurley. We found Puka Nacua. Because they found Puka Nacua, it gives him opportunities to do other things. And because Tyler Higbee tore his ACL in the last game of the season in the playoffs on a dirty hit, I might add, they could consider going after Brock Bowers. And to me, I think that's honestly a wicked enticing decision. And if he were to fall in this range, I don't think you're giving up nearly as much as you think. And this tight end class, I mean, let's be honest here. Jatavion Sanders is the next listed by PFF. They have him at 56th. So Brock Bowers, who you could argue might be one of the best talents in the draft. Maybe he's even the best prospect, but he's a tight end, so he's not going to go number 1 overall. And the next guy is 56th. That's something you really have to consider. This is not a great tight end class. It's not bad because what they have is beef right here. You know, from day 2 to like early day 3, you could get a good tight end. But you can get an elite Sam Laporta, Kyle Pitts' rookie year, George Kittle his second year, tight end right here in Brock Bowers. The thing about Bowers is that he really can do it all. I mean, that's the thing. Like, he can do it all. I think if you add him to the offense, you can justify that. So I like going after Brock Bowers more than going after a wide receiver because I think he fills a need. But also keep in mind, I'm high on Davis Allen as well. I just think the opportunity to get Brock Bowers is too good to pass up if you can trade up in a way that doesn't cripple your draft. So next up in the trade up, future quarterback. Jaden Daniels, Drake May. Those are really the only quarterbacks that I would even consider trading up for. Caleb Williams is too high. He'll go number 1 overall. That would be, my God. Keep in mind, they traded from 15th, I believe it was, the year they got Goff, and they gave up 3 first-round picks for Jared Goff and like some second-round picks and third-round. Like, they gave up a lot for Jared Goff. That was from 15 to 1. Now, Caleb Williams is a much better prospect than Goff, and they're trading from 19. That would cost so much. Plus, I want to see this team go after it this year. They are not far from the Super Bowl. I mean, they lost by 1 point to the Lions. What happens if they win? I think they clearly beat the Bucs, and I think they might have beaten the 49ers. I really believe that. And if they beat the 49ers, they would have been in the Super Bowl. So this team that everyone wrote off at the beginning of the year, they could have been in the Super Bowl. That's how close they are. And they didn't have anywhere near the talent that some of these other teams had and the spending capital that other teams had. So because of that, I would like to see them not go quarterback, but I could see if Drake May fell, I could see them having that internal discussion. Do you get Drake May? Do you have him sit behind Stafford for 3 years and then play him? Or Jaden Daniels offers just this element that, you know, you haven't seen at the quarterback position in LA. Who knows? But those would be the 2 guys that I would trade. I wouldn't trade up for Bo Nix. I wouldn't trade up for JJ McCarthy, who's not even on here. I don't really like the idea of trading up for a quarterback. I like the idea of going out, getting an impact player. If you're going to trade up, make sure that guy is starting day 1 and he's one of the best starters day 1. You're not trading up to get a plug and play tackle that has a low ceiling and a high floor. You're trading up to go and get a franchise corner piece. So if you trade up, get Brock Bowers. If you trade up, you're getting a guy like Jaden Daniels or Drake May. You're not trading up for Bo Nix. You're not trading up for Cooper DeJean. And I know some of you guys like him, and I'm not hating on him. I just don't think that you trade up for guys like that. I think you trade up for a bookend left tackle. I think you trade up for a franchise quarterback. And I think you trade up for an elite offensive weapon or edge defender that can, you know, break open a game. And to me, there's not an edge defender I would trade up for. And there is an elite offensive weapon. And there are some quarterbacks where if Drake May and Jaden Daniels fell far enough, you could argue trading up. All right. So then you have offensive tackle. You got Joe Alt, Talis Fuaga, Olu Fashanu, or Fashanu. I might have said his name wrong. These are guys I could see him trading up for. If Fashanu fell out of the top 10 as well as Fuaga, I think the Rams could trade up and get their left tackle of the future. Joe Alt is not going third overall. Again, I think the Patriots draft a quarterback. So all of these guys are in play. Now, this is a really good tackle draft. I want to point that out. So that's the thing. When you look here, you still have Amarius Mims. You still have Jordan Morgan, Tyler Guyton. You still have Troy Fautanu. You got the other Kyron from Yale, Graham Barton, Patrick Paul, Dominic Pooney, Kingsley Suamataia. Really like his tape. He killed it at the Senior Bowl. I mean, there are enough guys here where you're like, all right, I don't maybe have to trade up and get my left tackle of the future because there are options. So then you have cornerback, and this is a little interesting because trading up for a corner here, they're saying really only Dijon is getting drafted here and Nate Wiggins. I don't know if I agree with that. First off, I think Quinion Mitchell, and I have not gone too much into the film yet. I don't have my full breakdown. I haven't, scouted 250 to 300 prospects like I normally do. Not by this time. But my point is, I haven't seen everyone yet. I will say, when you look at corner, to me, this is the best corner in the draft. And he is the cover guy. He is on, the thumbnail. So if you're wondering who that was at Toledo, that's Quinion Mitchell, who is an absolute stud, who has ball production, who has great instincts. I would absolutely love to pair Quinion Mitchell and bring back Ahkello Witherspoon. I think that would be such a great combination. I know there are a lot of people like Kool-Aid McKinstry. My one thing I'll say is I like him, but please, for the love of God, do not decide that this guy is your number one corner because of his name. Because I see so many people that are like, well, I want to draft a guy named Kool-Aid. Well, yeah, that's great, but there might be better options there. I mean, he's one of the better corners for sure. And it's Rakestraw Jr. from Mizzou. Really good. Kamari Lassiter. I like TJ Tampa. This class, though, it feels like you get a rug pull at corner. Like if you don't draft one enough, you don't draft one quickly enough, you could really run out of real estate. And then all of a sudden, all the corners are off the board. So corners I could see him trading up for, Terrion Arnold, I think is becoming a fan favorite among Rams fans from what I've seen in comment sections. Same thing with Cooper DeJean. And I think people like Nate Wiggins as well. So those guys, those are three guys there. But I think Mitchell by the end of the draft process is going to be around this. Because I've seen these guys, they're not a dime a dozen, but the guys that are like, people are so, well, he went to Toledo and I like the Alabama guys more. And this guy, he's hovering around 45 to like 50 in mock drafts. And all of a sudden he shoots up at one point right before the Senior Bowl. Then he goes to the Senior Bowl. Then, throughout the draft process, he continues to do his thing. And then he ends up going in, the top 15. And people are like, how did he go here? I didn't see this coming. It's like, yeah, I mean, top 15 talent, which is what this guy is. So, I mean, right now you wouldn't have to trade up based on the stock, but I wouldn't be surprised if he goes up here by the end of the draft process. And for that reason, if he's the guy that you like, which he's the guy I like, I think trading for, a starting corner, a franchise cornerback makes sense. And then trading up for an edge, do they have to do that? Jared Verse, I've seen him go as high as 5 in mock drafts. There's no way to know. Is there going to be an edge defender that we're not talking about just absolutely emerged during the pro days and the combine? We don't know. Dallas Turner, I've seen him go as high as up here, and now he's down here. So I say Dallas Turner, I say Jared Verse, and of course Latu, which I feel like that is the most mocked player to the Rams. Latu and Quinion Mitchell, I think, would be like my two favorites right now. If they weren't going offensive line, this guy is the most mocked guy to the Rams. I mean, it makes sense. They need another edge defender, played at UCLA. I think the injuries are just a really big concern for me, but you're talking about potentially top 5 player falling down here because of the injuries. Do you consider that? Last time the Rams did something like that the first round, they got Todd Gurley. And yeah, the injuries eventually caught up to him, but when he was healthy, he was the best in the league at his position. So something to consider there. And then a trade down or out. So this is a little interesting. The Rams haven't made a first round selection since 2016, as I mentioned with Jared Goff. They trade out of the first round in 2019 to take Taylor Rapp in the second. They trade with the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons took Caleb McGarry, the offensive tackle, and the Rams took Taylor Rapp like late in the second. So here's my thing. Could they pass on picking in the first again, pile on the picks? They've gotten so used to not picking in the first round and save about $5 million in that draft, the draft pick reserved cap. You save about $5 million not making a first round selection because these guys are pricey. Not super pricey. It's not like the days where they drafted Sam Bradford before the rookie wage scale was fixed, but still, I mean, these guys are pricey. So do you consider just trading out of this, get some picks, and not have to pay $5 million? Or do you trade down and get, pick best player available? And those options, you got JJ McCarthy at quarterback, you got Bo Nix, you got Michael Penix Jr., Brian Thomas at wide receiver, Keon Coleman, Troy Franklin. I don't see Brock Bowers falling, so I don't think you would trade down for Brock Bowers, but offensive tackle, Amarius Mims, Tyler Guyton, Troy Fautanu, and maybe JC Latham if he fell down here far enough. Jackson Powers Johnson, the center, did really well at the Senior Bowl. People are talking about him. You got Latu, Braylon Trice, Dallas Turner, Jared Verse. If those guys fall, you trade down. And then Quinion Mitchell, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Terrion Arnold, Nate Wiggins, Cooper DeJean, and Ennis Rakestraw. So what would I do here? And I only have one. I'm not drafting the whole. This is all about pick 19. So, I could go in the direction of Latu here. Latu has 26.2 pass rush win rate. You guys have seen the tape most likely. Really good against the run. Great pass rusher, obviously. And he's got good, really, really prototypical size at 6'5", 265. And then you have Quinion Mitchell, who good in run support, completion percentage 43.5, and that's great. Zone coverage, Rams use a lot of zone. Man coverage, he's good. So this is a guy that can work. I think he really, when I was watching him, he just feels scheme versatile. But look at this, forced incompletions, third. He dropped 3 interceptions. That's fair, but still. He had 5 interceptions in 2022. This year, not as much. But look at this passer rating, 51.1, 34.8, 78.2 is his worst year. And these overall grades, this is blue chip prospect territory. 6 feet, 196. Man, that would be tough. If you knew ahead of time the Rams are picking at 19, they're going to stay there, and they're picking between these two guys, if you're a Rams fan, you have to feel pretty good that these are the two options. I'm just saying. Because I don't know if these two guys will be here when the draft actually rolls along. I think he's got a lot of growth. And what I mean by that is his stock. I don't think he's where he's going to end up. I think we're going to be talking about Quinion Mitchell as the guy. You could tell some people just haven't been paying attention. The draft rolls along. They hear the guy's name that they haven't heard. They haven't done a lot of research. So they're not, he's not like a big name. And then he goes 10th and everyone's like, oh, it's such a reach. And then he ends up being the best player in the draft. I feel like this happens a lot. Rakestraw. This is a good option if you're going to trade down. The problem is he's not great in man coverage. That's not a huge deal because the Rams are more of a zone team. So 6 feet, 188, Rakestraw makes sense. If you're going to trade down, you want to get a corner. Then you have, of course, Kool-Aid McKinstry, who, the thing about Kool-Aid, he's rock solid. I don't think he's an elite corner by any stretch, and he only has 2 interceptions in his career, but rock solid corner, only given up 3 touchdowns in 3 years. 6'1", 195, played at Bama, well coached, good in run support, all that. Kind of going through it. This is who you have right now in this scenario, and this could be different. Some of these guys could fall. It really depends. But looking at this at quarterback, would you take any of these guys at pick 19? I absolutely would not. I don't like JJ McCarthy like other people do. I don't. There's something off. I don't believe in JJ McCarthy as a franchise quarterback. I think he'll stick around. I think he's kind of just that guy that he'll stick around. He's got decent size, can make some good throws here and there. But I wasn't overly impressed, and I think they moved away from him a little bit when things got tough. I think they lean more on the run game, which I think is a big reason why Michigan won it all. Michael Penix Jr., this becomes interesting because you get a Michael Penix Jr. and now your right tackle is your left tackle. All the left tackle is protecting the quarterback's blind spot. There's not a lot of lefties in the league. So now he and Tua Tagovailoa, your right tackle on those teams, become your left tackle. So you have to be cognizant of that. And I mean, I like Penix maybe in the second, but I don't like him in the first. And then no running back, obviously, because you have Kyron Williams. You're not going to pick one in the first round after you found Kyron Williams last year. So then wide receiver, you got Brian Thomas here. Thomas, really good size, 6'4", 205. I mean, I'd like to see him do a little bit better in man coverage, against man coverage, but, higher than 50-50 contested catch. Drop is about average. Yards per route run. I mean, he's a good talent. I mean, I like, Troy Franklin. I think I like him a little bit better. 6'3", 187. I think he's better against man coverage. His drops are a little bit of a concern. I don't love the receivers at this point. I know people are talking about Ladd McConkey. He's 6 foot 185. Not really a contested catch guy, but not really that bad either. Only 2 drops this past year. A lot of production. This year only had 2 touchdowns. He had 7 the year prior and 5 the year before that. Of course, you have Keon Coleman. We saw Keon Coleman blow up with Jordan Travis at the beginning of the year. 6'4", 215. The contested catch rate needs to be better, though. To me, if you're at 6'4", I need more from you than that. But the drop rate's really good. He's got the better hands of these guys. What I think, a guy that I think is going to get a lot of run, first off, Roman Wilson is going to be way higher. Yeah, he's not really a contested catch guy. 6 foot 192. Kind of reminds me of Jaden Reed, who's on the Packers. This guy's going to be a lot higher. Wouldn't be surprised if he ended up working his way into the first round. Brendan Rice is an intriguing option, 6'3", 210. Not really much of a contested catch guy, but does get open quite a bit. And then I think the guy that you really have to keep an eye on is Xavier Leggett. Leggett doesn't drop passes. I mean, he dropped 2. That's really good. Really good against man coverage. This is somebody not really a contested catch guy, but not bad. 6'3", 227. I mean, he seems like somebody that could be, he could be intriguing in a Rams offense. So he's a guy to look out for. And by the time the draft rolls along, he could be a first round pick. I mean, we've seen this happen so many times. Then tight end, I mean, you don't really have anybody that you would take at 19. To my point. Then offensive tackle, I mean, Amarius Mims, I've talked about. I really like Mims. I think it makes sense. It does seem like his stock's a little bit lower, so maybe they would have to trade down. This might be a little bit of a reach. Tyler Guyton is starting to rise up. He's having a good draft process, 6'7", 327. But the question is, looking at these numbers, is Tyler Guyton that much better than just rolling with Alec Jackson? And that is the decision the Rams are going to have to make, which also leads me to believe that there is a chance they trade up and get one of these top-notch guys in Fuaga, Fashanu, or Alt. And the reason I say that is because Alec Jackson's good enough to start. He started for a playoff team at left tackle. It did a nice job. And he's looked good in the past. So if you're going to replace Alec Jackson at left tackle, you need to get one of those really good bookend left tackles. I mean, I think this tackle class is insane. I think Alt is a franchise tackle. I think Fuaga is a franchise tackle. I think Fashanu is a franchise tackle. And Latham, I wouldn't be surprised if he was that, he ended up being really good. I really, really like this guy, Kingsley Suamataia. I totally butchered that. Suamataia, 6'6", 315. I really like Pooney as well. Obviously, you see the Jayhawk in the background. Watched a lot of Dominic Pooney, 6'5", 320. And I really like the Yale kid, Kyron Omagaji, 6'5", 318. So I guess the point I'm making is if you can upgrade tight end, you can do that with Brock Bowers. Wide receiver, I don't know if you're really making much of an upgrade. I think I'd just rather have them sign somebody where they are. I mean, unless they trade up, I think I'd rather just have them sign somebody than draft one of these guys, personally. Quarterback, I would rather have them sign somebody than draft any of these guys. Tackle, again, fine with Alaric Jackson. Maybe Tyron Smith they bring in, kind of like the Andrew Whitworth Part 2 effect. But if not, I mean, I think you got to trade up. I don't know if you're going to be okay grabbing, these guys. Not saying that I'd be against it. I really like Mims, but who knows? And then interior offensive line, we have Jackson Powers Johnson. I mean, do you want to take a center at 19? Your center is a free agent now. Coleman Shelton is a free agent, so that's something to keep in mind. 6'3", 320. I mean, overall, he's really, really good. Number one center. Will he go, will he be a part of this first round? I don't know. But centers that get drafted in the first round have to be really good to do that. Then, I mean, interior defensive line, I think they kind of steer clear from. And don't get me wrong, talent, you look at Jerzon Newton, who I think is going to be the number one interior defensive lineman taken off the board. You have Tavondre Sweat. You have Byron Murphy the second, both from Texas. I don't see them going in that direction. Edge, like I said, Latu, Trice, depending on what happens, Dallas Turner, Jared Verse, these guys could be there. So what direction do they go in there? I would rather them go after a stud edge in free agency or draft Latu here. I think Trice will fall to the second. And then corner, I like Quinion Mitchell here. And one thing I'll say is I don't love the cornerback market in free agency. I think you bring back Akella Witherspoon. I think L'Jarius Sneed is too undisciplined, had 17 penalties this year. It's not going to cut it. Jalen Johnson probably isn't going to leave Chicago. If he does, that becomes very interesting. And they might not even pick here, as I mentioned earlier. But I don't love the corners. I don't. In the in free agency. So with that said, I'd be all for going out and getting a Mitchell or a McKinstry or Tampa, Rakestraw, somebody like that. Wouldn't be against it. At 19, maybe a little high for some of those guys I mentioned, but wouldn't be against it. At safety, there's not anybody that's going to get drafted in the first round. Newbin is probably the best. Kinchins is up there. Bullock, I really like. There's one guy, and I don't think they have him on here. Yeah, I'm not seeing him. But yeah, those three right there, they're going to be second and third round talents. Probably all three are probably going in the second. I mean, unless the Rams were to trade for Antoine Winfield Jr., I don't know where they go in the safety room. I think they could bring back Jordan Fuller, considering the market has died down so much. But I'm just going to say this, based on where we are on the board to wrap up this episode here, I am going to go say the Rams actually ended up signing. I'm going to say they signed an edge defender. Whoops. They signed an edge defender. I don't know who it is, but in this sense, I'm going to add Quinion Mitchell and have him play next to Akella Witherspoon. And you have Quinion Mitchell, Akella Witherspoon. You got Trey Tomlinson. You got Kobe Durant, Darion Kendrick, and I feel good about the cornerback room. That's kind of where I'm going right now. There are a lot of different situations I could see them, going into. Let's do one for fun here. We're going to do this. We're going to trade up. How far can we trade up? Let's see. So we got the 19th pick. We'll trade 19 and we'll trade 83. Well, what's the trade value chart? Let me see if I can. Let's do a trade up. Let's see if we can do that. Trade value chart here. Because I want to make sure. And I mean, this isn't exactly how it goes, but this gives you an idea. So the Rams pick is worth 875 points. So to trade up could be tough. To trade up to 7th, say with the Titans, because I don't think Atlanta's trading. Maybe not Chicago. That would make sense. They'd want more picks. Let's just say Chicago. Okay. So the trade with Chicago, I'm not going to do the math, just kind of guesstimate here. You need to get up to 1350. So around 1300. Maybe the Jets are a good trade candidate. So this puts you, I mean, let's just call this 1200, right? So you do have to give up your second round pick to do this. So are you interested in that? That is the question. But let's just say for the sake of this, that this is 1200 here and you give up the compensatory pick you're getting for Raheem Morris. Put you at 1300. So it'd be a first, a second, and a third to move up and get somebody. Is that worth it? If that's worth it to you, then let's do this. And I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know if we'll be able to get the guy I want. But let's just say we do. 9th with Chicago, 19th. They don't have the picks, so I'll just add that. So just they don't have the Raheem Morris projected pick here. So just assume this is the 100th pick, whatever. So that, or actually, let's do, that has a 50-50 shot of being accepted. You keep your second, both Raheem Morris picks. You can't trade. I don't think you could trade the compensatory picks before they're awarded. But so let's just say 2 third-round picks, a third-round pick in 2025 and 2024. Give them a 4th rounder. Well, let's just see if they do this. Not accepted. Okay. So let's go with, I don't know, we'll just give them. No, this is too much. Okay. So first, a third, and we'll give them a player. I don't know. Who do we give them? This is Nopum. Okay. That didn't work. I don't know. I kind of just want to just force this trade just to show you. So let's just say they get this trade done. The 2 thirds and a first to move up 10 spots. So the Rams pick at 9. Brock Bowers went at 5. Go figure. But you moved up. This is where it becomes interesting, right? What do you do here? You got your pick of the litter. You got Fuaga. You got Daniels. You got Alt. How do you use this pick? That's tough. Alt, and you have a left tackle of the future. You gave up your next, your Raheem Morris picks. So you don't have a third. You still have your third, but you don't have your compensatory third, and you won't have your third next year. So that's something to consider. But you still have your second round pick. This is a draft that has tackles. But I mean, Alt here sets you up. You can kick Alaric at left guard, move Avila to center, and you're cooking with grease at that point. Or you could just grab Jaden Daniels, 6'4", 210. I mean, I don't want to call him an elite talent, but Very, very good prospect. Can throw the deep ball, can make the intermediate throw, can, obviously his running ability speaks for itself. Look at turnover worthy play rate, 1.6%. So do you draft Jaden Daniels? You say, you know what? We're going to get our franchise quarterback. We're going to have him sit. How old is he? We don't have an age. Maybe we can find one. Jaden Daniels is 23. So he'd be 24 in December. So if you did the math, let's say Matthew Stafford, he's going to be 36 in 2 days. Right? So Matthew Stafford will be 36 in 2 days. So that time, 3 years from now, he'd be 39. We'd be in the year 2027, and he'd be, I believe, a free agent at that point. Let's look at his contract. I think that's his last year, or yeah, he's a free agent in 2027. So you would be doing the same thing. You'd have to figure out if you want to do it, but you would be doing the same thing that the Packers did essentially with Jordan Love. Because how old is Jordan Love? Yeah, Jordan Love's 25. So, I mean, Jordan Love's younger, but that's up to you. I mean, would you go with Jaden Daniels here, have him learn, develop under Stafford? No, and you still have your second, you still have your third because you only trade your compensatory third for Raheem Morris. You still have plenty of picks. Do you make that trade? I think it's a legitimate question because I think this would be tough. But I also have to say, I don't think this is realistic because I don't think Atlanta is passing on him. But let's just say somehow he made it here. This is maybe my favorite quarterback in the draft. Now, I haven't finished evaluating everybody yet. Obviously, not even close. But you could go with quarterback. You could go with left tackle. That's the only position that I would trade up here. Brock Bowers is already off the board. I mean, my intentions were to trade up to get Brock Bowers. Those were my intentions. But let's just say screw it. Rams get Jaden Daniels. And so the Rams, they only give up 2/3, a third in 2024, a third in 2025. They still have their third in 2024 and a third in 2025. So they give up their surplus picks and they move down 10 spots and they get Jaden Daniels. Now, to me, that's awesome. However, it contradicts with my vision for this team and how I feel like they really should go for it this year and add pieces for the long term, but guys that can play right away. Knowing you're not going to have a third rounder and a first rounder on the field this upcoming year, that would kind of sting. But it's also the NFL. And you never know with the way the injuries are, you never know. Stafford's one hit away. And it's fair. So I don't know what you guys think. Personally, I would actually consider trading up for Bowers. I like the idea of moving 2/3 and, moving up in the first round. Again, I mean, is that real? Like, how likely is that? Like, you say you get rid of your third, 175. I think it's likely. I mean, this is probably what that would get you. That might be a little too high. You might have to give up that second round pick, but if you could keep the second rounder, only use your third, keep another third in your back pocket, use a third this year and a third next year, and keep your second rounder, I think trading up actually has a lot of value. So Brock Bowers, Jaden Daniels, or offensive tackle, one of the big three, and Fashanu, Alt, or Fuaga. You take your pick. Those are the only way that's the only way I trade up. If it's for a quarterback, if it's for a left tackle, or if it's for Bowers. or if Marvin Harrison falls, which I don't see happening. Marvin Harrison Jr. So anyway, those are my thoughts. You can follow me on social media at JK Bogan. I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation of what the heck will the Rams do at pick 19. And I'll see you guys soon. Take care and go Rams.